Welcome everybody to the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. It is Thursday, July 13th at 5 o'clock. Regular meeting of the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission will be called to order on Thursday, July 13th, 2023 at 5 o'clock. That's me. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card, if in person, and file it with the secretary. I'm guessing that would be me, unless you're gonna flip them over.
They would probably hand it to me, yes,
There you go.
and I'm your liaison. You
Your
can call me your
pigeon
secretary. And
send it
then,
via pigeon
and-
carrier.
Yeah, and I'll send it over to you by pigeon, yes.
Great. Okay, thank you, Mara. Let's see, if in person, and file it with the secretary. Cards are available in the lobby. Speakers should state their name and address for the record. Don't really think they need to do the address. For the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay. Could we get a roll call, Sherry?
Chair Akins,
Here.
Vice Chair, is it Convery?
McCatton,
Oh, that's right, I'm
and
sorry.
she's
Commissioner
on
absent. Commissioner Convery,
Here.
Commissioner Basasha,
here.
Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, if everybody would please stand with me and turn to face the flag. Repeat after me. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay. Here we go. Public communications. First of all, I'd like to welcome our council liaison for this quarter. Thank you for being here with us. Councilman Whitman, pleasure to have you here. So public communications is a time set aside during the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for members of the public to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items of city business other than scheduled items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will generally be referred to staff and/or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting. Do we have anyone in the audience that has a speaker's card to speak in public comment? No? Sherry, do we have anyone online?
Nobody that has their hand raised.
Okay. We have people online?
One.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Museum report. This is from Wendy Barker. Wendy, the executive director for the Ojai Valley Museum, calls to our attention the Ojai Studio Artists Turning Corners exhibit with 67 artists is open through early October. It just opened just in the past couple weeks. The exhibit that was there, whoa, someone's late on that. At the opening was very well attended, very well. And with that many artists, it is very creative there. Saturday, July 22nd from 11 to 12 will be an artist talk with members of Ojai Studio Artists, and that is free with admission. Thank you, Ojai Valley Museum. Rick and Craig actually remember when we had a physical person who was a museum representative, because I was it when they were on the...
That was David Mason when I started.
Yeah, and then I took over from
It's
David.
David's birthday tomorrow. So.
It is. It is. Happy birthday, David. I should have wore. So consent items, minutes of the May 11th, 2023 regular meeting. Do we have any changes, any?
I don't have anything.
I just have one.
Okay.
It says that Commissioner Walker gave a PowerPoint presentation of the school's history, and I believe I just gave an oral presentation. I didn't give a PowerPoint that night.
What number is that in, Craig?
That's underneath where it says Chair Akins opened the item on page on the second page of that.
Oh, okay, that's
No, wait.
item number 3?
Oh, item number 4, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, and item number 3, you're right.
Didn't we have a PowerPoint presentation for
I don't
your?
think- On the one on Matilaha, the junior high school?
Oh, correct, that's
I
correct.
gave one
There
the
wasn't.
next time for the
Historic structures and merit.
Correct.
structures of merit.
That's correct, so we can make that change.
PowerPoint, okay.
That's all I had.
Okay, great, thank you. I had a question on page 5 of 5, under item number 6. It says, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth bullet point down. It says, further discussion about how and where to place the commemorative plaque for of Ojai City Jail after Constable Harry Hunt. Something seemed off.
And I just had a question about that, because one of the items we discussed was the city attorney-led workshop on the CEQA and the city ordinance, historic ordinance, and I didn't see that in this list. Not that that's important, but I just wondered if it was left off there or it was added later, but it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, good point. Okay. So then, I guess, motion to approve the minutes with those adjustments in mind?
I'll make
Are we-
a motion to.
Are we
approve.
okay to do that? Yes. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve with the adjustments.
great. Thank you, Commissioner Conklin.
Second?
And a second by Commissioner Walker. Roll call, Sherry?
Akins?
Yes.
Convery?
Yes.
Basasha?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, now we've moved to item number 2. And we have the draft minutes for the June 8th, 2023. Any corrections or adjustments on that?
I wasn't here.
Okay,
I don't have any.
Rick? Okay, neither do I. Do we have a motion to approve from my left side?
I move to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Sherry, roll call for approving the June 8th, 2023 minutes?
Akins?
Yes.
Convery?
Yes.
Basasha?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Actually, you weren't here.
That's okay.
So,
Actually, Sherry, make note, please, that it's 3-0. Convery was actually absent that night,
Still approved, though.
but they're still approved, yes.
okay, great. Okay, now moving to item number 3. Okay, to consider and finalize Constable Harry Hunt plaque language, staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Akins. So this is, this is a discussion regarding the plaque, language, size, and location for display on the historic landmark number 12, which is the Ojai City Jail, of a plaque that is commemorating Constable Harry Hunt. And we have in the packet a layout for the plaque that everyone has had an opportunity to review. And so at tonight's meeting, we can talk about the language, or you can talk about the language if you want to change it or keep it the way it is.
Okay.
And then we can also talk about the, the exact, the size, which I think may very possibly vary depending on the number of words, and I think if it's around the same size, that we're fine. And the location, as long as it's in the same general area, that's also fine. But that can be discussed tonight. Since the last meeting, and also the go-ahead by council to review this plaque and to have one made and install it, I went out and measured the width of the door and where the door would open to on the wall that's to the right of the door if you're facing the building. The door is set in, so when it opens, it wouldn't open flush, so it wouldn't be covering 2.5 feet of, or actually, I think it was 2 feet 10 inches of the wall to the right of the door. But anyway, I think I heard, though, that the location of it might somebody says that the plaque maybe should move to the right a little bit or something. Anyway, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so in talking, so you have an example, a mock-up of the plaque. Again, this is basically the same layout as was shown in the joint meeting we had with the city council. The wording has been through several iterations. In that iteration that was provided to in that joint meeting was the latest iteration that came from Kimberly Hunt Smith, which is Harry Hunt Jr.'s daughter. Craig made the observation that there were maybe a few items to add to modify that, and so he sent that to me after he got a little bit of sleep, I hope, but it was wonderful. On suggestions on that, I relayed that to Kimberly, and so she looked at what Craig had submitted, and I got that to them because she was coming into town for the 4th of July weekend. And so I thought it would be good to get it to them as quickly as possible and getting them just the suggestions Craig had. And so they looked at that, the family did, they talked it over, and they picked up many of the suggestions that Craig had made. The suggestions mainly involved, and they were great points that Craig made in talking about a little bit more than his career, that he just, didn't happen to fall into the position as constable. What being constable actually meant in the area. There was some discussion with Kimberly and her dad on that. And so they rewrote it into what we have here. And I talked with Kimberly 2 days ago. She said the family loves it. Last night she had a question on what it would look like, and so I sent her some example, the example of what we have out front, and the example of what's on the Unified School District, which are basically the same. And she said they love that. So I think what we are doing tonight then is approving this language so that we can move forward on the plaque. We do have a quote that was put together by the Aswell Trophy, who does the plaques for the city, and also a delivery time. It is not being cast, it is being etched by a foundry. And that's what we've been doing with the plaques that we have, is etching them rather than. And so that's where we are. Like, we're just waiting for approval on the language, and then turn it over to Sherry, who will place that order with them. Sherry and I happen to know the people.
So could you read us the new edition? I see some notes. Is there different language, or are we looking at the final language?
Yes, it's in the packet. There's,
Oh, this is the
That's
final
that
language.
one.
That's the final one, yes.
but not the language. If you page forward a couple, you'll see
The next page.
that they added
Cindy,
the
right there.
language
Right there.
about Sheriff
This one?
Yes.
Bob Clark.
Oh, okay. Oh. 'Cause
So
there
the
wasn't a
design
note
is the
about that.
first page of 3,
Yeah.
or 4, I
So
guess
page 1 of 1.
So page 1 of 1. and
is the
page-
layout.
Attachment A, page 1 of 1 is the
Well,
layout.
just go ahead 2 pages.
Attachment C is the language.
Correct.
Okay.
The one
Would
thing
you
I
like me to
did,
read it, or?
No, it's
Okay.
okay, thanks. I just wanted to find the difference. So,
This is the one that's in here.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have me confused.
well, the one with the picture of him on it, that was just the design layout, and then the changes they made by drawing in the discussion of being a deputy sheriff under Bob Clark, that's on the second page that's got the new writing.
Okay,
So I assume that this
Yes.
one is the one that has their
Yes.
corrected language.
yes. I'm reading through it as we're talking. Yes.
The only thing I saw is I looked up the official name of that medal, and it is the the Mexican Service Medal is what it's called. So I don't know if you want to
Oh,
add, receive the
unreserved.
Mexican Service Medal was what the award given to the Army members who fought in that battle. And it's not the Mexican Border Service Medal, that was one given to National Guard, but the one that he received must have been the Mexican Service Medal, because he was in the Army.
So the second sentence would read, during the Mexican Border War, he served in the Army and received the Mexican Service Medal.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to add that in for Sherry, Brian?
Yeah.
No? Oh, you got it? Okay. Okay. I mean, I think it looks great. I like it. I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, and again, they made the adjustments. I appreciate Craig with his suggestions. They were very helpful. They've taken different stances in putting that together, so this worked out perfectly. Also, Craig pointing out that the placement should move over a little bit so it's not behind the door.
I
Yeah.
wanted to make a comment about the placement. Even though the door doesn't open all the way, when the jail's open, like on Ojai Day, there's always a crowd of people around there, and it's too hard to see the plaque. So
Right.
I feel like it should be centered under the opening, the air holes to the right. I mean, if you move it all the way to the
Yeah, I don't want to move it all the way
right,
across.
it's too far, but I think
Yeah.
if you center it under the air holes right there, it's far enough away and it balances the wall when the doors are closed. Does that can you see that
Well, yeah.
right there?
Well, I walked down there and I approached the jail from several different directions, from the Ojai Trail, the trail that goes down from there, and coming up from the lower courts. And the part that you really see is that east wall, the wall around the corner. That's what you see when you walk down.
On the trail?
And so if you put it on that wall, I thought, this is just an idea, that it would be visible to people walking down from the trail to the jail. They would see that and be interested and go over and look at it. It would also be visible to the people walking up from the lower courts. It would also give you more room if you ever wanted to add
Yeah.
something else, like for another officer of some kind. And it would make more room for a group, like if you had a school group and they were gathered around it to look at it. But I was really struck, I've walked down there a lot, but I was really struck when you walk down how that east wall really is the prominent feature
Yeah.
that you see.
The wall that's around the corner, that's not the wall that's where the door is.
No, the one that's around the corner.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
wall.
I-
There's a bench over there, I think.
Huh?
There's a bench
Are you
over
talking
there.
about
This wall.
That,
right
Yeah,
here.
the one
That's the
that
east
you see
wall.
when you walk down from the Ojai Trail. It's just right in front of you, that wall.
I'm thinking
Here's
west.
the jail.
Well,
It's
it's
east.
facing west, yeah. The one on the right around,
Yeah.
it's
This
west,
wall.
I guess,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't,
This wall?
That wall, yeah.
Oh, that's the west wall. Yeah.
The west wall,
I was
okay, I'm
kind of
sorry.
confused. I mean, I love the arguments and the presentation that you just described about groups and everything. I just was like, where's the east wall? But no, I think that's a really good point, and especially like for groupings and educational discussion, it makes a better location.
Right.
And then if you add on to that, that could be like the commemorative wall, the wall of fame, you know?
yeah, yeah, that, if, so when we're doing plaques, generally they're on the front wall, not on the side wall. And so moving that around to the side, I mean, you already have a plaque on the other side. So that's the side,
It's the plaque over here on this wall?
yeah, that's the one that, the landmark plaque.
Oh, that's kind of interesting then, because then you have like a balance.
Yeah, yeah, so I would, the thought has always been to put it on the front side.
But if you have a plaque on this wall and a plaque on this wall, and the front's got all this interest going on.
What's a plaque on this wall and the plaque on
The
that wall?
plaque over here is the plaque that says landmark.
No, the plaque is just to the left of this door,
Oh, the
right
other
there.
side of the
It's on
door.
the same
Ah.
front.
So,
front
Tom,
part.
I can't remember, I know I've been there a million times, but when you open both the doors, the plaque
There's only
that's-
one door.
Why did I think there were two doors? Okay, so that plaque
there's-
never gets blocked.
N-
This plaque, I thought it was double doors.
No, it doesn't.
For fat prisoners. This plaque, you always can see it when the doors open, close, et cetera.
Yes.
So then if you put another plaque here, it's gonna be off-center though. To me, that drives me insane. You know, if you have a plaque here in the door, and then you have this wall and this going on, and there's another plaque, and you're looking at it with the door closed, it's gonna be
Well, that,
out of balance.
I think the idea was to balance the plaque on this side to the plaque on the other side, but just
Yeah.
make sure that it's not covered.
But when the doors open, it's gonna be hard for groups to see it, and that's when
No, it
people
won't,
are
because
down
you'll
there.
be, all of the people will be right here in front of the long wall.
Well, I'm trying,
And when people walk down from the park, that's where
Yeah,
that's what
when
they
the
see.
door is closed, but pretend like it's Ojai Day and the door's open and you're there in your cop outfit and there's like 15 people trying to get in. You wouldn't be able to really see it or focus on
Well,
it.
yeah, because you'll put it, I mean, that's why Mara went over there. You'll put it just beyond where the door opens to, and then
Okay.
you'll have that in that area. Again, you're walking down towards the jail, and when you're coming down
Yeah.
towards the jail, this is what you're seeing.
I just think when you walk,
Seeing the door
when
and
you
the
walk
plaque.
toward it, you really see that wall, and the plaque, I think, would draw people's attention.
Which wall are you talking about, Craig? The wall around the left side?
The wall right there.
Kind of, I'm leaning toward Brian's.
That's how you come
thought.
down to it on the
Yeah.
path.
As you walk down the path, you
But
would,
it
it would
seems so
just,
stark, that wall, and then there's a plaque. It seems kind of random.
Yeah, I
I'm leaning
think so
toward
too.
Brian's
Yeah.
idea. I mean, I know what you're talking about, Craig, and if we had more plaques,
Yeah,
I mean, we
think,
could always move it. If there are more plaques to be added, we could rework that whole look. What do you think? Rick?
so,
Well, I think I like the east idea,
The Craig idea.
yeah.
the west
The
wall.
west.
Yeah.
And another detail to ponder is that the front facade, there's nothing else on it except architectural details.
Mhm.
And so then you have a plaque on it.
yeah, but you have a plaque on it
Already.
already.
Oh,
The-
okay.
The
I didn't-
landmarking
I
plaque.
didn't see that.
is
Oh, I
just
thought
on
you
the-
said it was on the east side.
No, it's on the east side of the door, but it's
Oh,
on the
okay,
front.
I gotcha.
It's a small plaque that's right there. I mean, Mara and I walked over and looked
Oh,
at
good.
all
Is
this
it
and
in your
measured it.
picture, Craig, that you just showed us? Can you see the historic plaque in that photograph?
Oh,
I think so. It looked like you had the whole thing on there.
it's a little dot next to
Oh.
the left side of it's very small.
So
but-
this would be a larger plaque on the other side.
Yeah, and it would be on the wall that you're looking at right there, which
I
is the
think-
front wall,
I-
right behind the box that talks about the history of the jail.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that site is just isolated. Nobody goes and stays
But
there. They
everybody
always come to
sees
the
it when you
front.
walk up. You don't really see the other
Well,
side. You have to actually go there.
when people approach from the trail, they walk right to the opening to the jail.
Mm.
They don't walk over to the side. No one ever walks on that side.
Except me.
Well, I'm leaning toward the original location,
Yeah, and we'll just
discussed it.
situate it so that it's nicely placed with the door open.
Yeah.
And then, look at it from different angles.
And then, Craig, if we do add more plaques, we could rework it, and create a wall with more balance. Does that work for you?
Sure, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Are we okay with the language then? With that addition, Craig? Mexican service medal?
I am.
Rick? We good?
I think that's better than just a service medal, indeed, to
Yeah.
call out what it
Yeah,
is.
I like that. The thought was to put some kind of salutary statement right at the very end. But I think the way it is and the fact that the family likes it how it is, and I would just make a motion to approve the language with the adjustment of adding the Mexican service medal, Mexican to the front of that. I think that's great in identifying that. And that we go ahead and place it to the right of the opening, working with Mara on the placement on that. As for the size, if you look in the graphic, it says 14 and a half by, says, what do you have in there?
I'm not sure.
It's in the graphic I'm looking for.
It says 15 and a half inches by
there we
18
go. Sorry,
inches
it's over here.
high.
Okay, so 15 and a half inches. When I sent this out to Aswell Trophy just to get kind of a price and a delivery time, again, they said they wouldn't cast it, they would etch it. Etching is they do with a lot of the plaques for the city. When they can cast it, they cast it. When they can't, when it has more words, like probably maybe the one out front and the one over at the school district, then they do an etching. He said it looks pretty much the same.
The size that's in your packet, the 15 and a half by 18 inches, that is the size adjusted post joint meeting with the council.
Okay. Yeah, I think I told him 15 and a half by 18. So,
So you have the size and the location and the language?
yes.
Okay.
And then we have supplemental details on we did get a quote from them, and the delivery was, I think, 4 to 5 weeks from the foundry. So,
If you can take a type of roll call for the 3 items, the location, the length, the wording, and the size, that everyone is in agreement, that would be great.
sure.
Sherry, you want to do that, please?
Do we have a second?
Oh, that's right, sorry.
Is there a motion?
I
I'll second it.
I made a motion.
Oh, I'll
Yeah.
second it, sure.
Okay.
Akins,
Yes.
Convery,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, Sherry. If I may interrupt, I just want to let the commissioners know that we have property owners here for an item that's number 6.
Is this the Terramina property?
Yeah, and I just wanted to let the commissioners know that we do
Sure.
have people here, just in case they wanted to adjust the agenda in order
Sure.
to accommodate them. And there is someone else in the meeting tonight, and I'm not sure if she's here for an item. Are you here for an item on the agenda? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
It's the what?
She's here for the Matilaha School discussion.
Oh, okay.
So, but the other 2 women in the audience are here for 10 Taramina, just in case you wanted to adjust the agenda to accommodate them.
I am happy. So once we've gotten this item done, then I'm happy to adjust the agenda, move the Terramina item up. What item number is that?
That is number 6.
Can I just make a comment about the last item?
Yeah.
One of the themes of this plaque is that this was one of the 2 officers or lawmen in the Ojai Valley who died in the line of service. So in researching about Harry Hunt, I also researched and read up on the Peter Aguirre shooting in Miners Oaks in 1996. And it really struck me how these incidents that happen, we're used to the Hollywood view of the lawman, shooting the bad guy and then getting his wounds patched up, and then the end of the story, it's a happy ending. And this really shows that that's not the case. It wasn't with Harry Hunt, and it definitely wasn't with Peter Aguirre. And the thing I didn't realize is the real hero that day with the Peter Aguirre shooting was James Fryhoff. He was the partner of Mr. Aguirre, and he was the one that had to deal with capturing and shooting the suspect. And then I read the court case on it, the court transcripts, and what a tragedy it was for everyone involved. For him, it was very tough for him for months after that. But anyway, he went on and now he's the sheriff of Ventura County, and I thought how wonderful it would be to invite him to the dedication
Yeah.
to maybe speak at that, of this plaque.
No,
That's a great idea.
Excellent point.
Yeah, I remember when the Peter Aguirre thing happened, like yesterday. It was crazy. Yep. No, that's a great idea, Craig. Brian's writing it down.
he is. I know Jim. Okay. What number did we figure out that was?
Item number 6.
We move 6 to the next item.
Yep.
Do we have to vote on that, or can we just do it?
We can be formal and take a call on that, roll call.
Okay, yes. Sherry, you want to ask if it's okay to adjust the agenda, moving item 6 up to item number 3, I guess?
Akins?
Yes.
Convery?
Yes.
Basasha?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
4.
So yes, it's moving it up to number 4.
Yes,
You ready?
I am. Staff
Okay.
report.
So thank you, Chair Akins. This is a request by Commissioner Walker and Chair Akins to discuss a minor work permit that is out in circulation right now for HPC review for, 10 Taormina Lane, and it's for replacement of existing doors and windows, same locations, same size, and same design. And they're doing this for, what is the word? For purposes of, keeping the heat out and the cold out. What is,
Insulation.
thank you,
Yes, yeah.
insulation. I was having a brain.
Energy efficiency.
Thank you, Sherry. I was having a brain
even better.
freeze. So anyway, that is their intention, and they are in the Taormina Historic District.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you some more history if you'd like. But honestly, staff has prepared a minor work permit that does not normally come formally before the HPC, and it's actually not here for your decision. It's for a discussion because 2 of the commissioners have asked for it to be discussed this evening. So I'm going to actually turn it over to you to ask questions if you'd like.
What did you say, 2? Who asked it to be discussed? You said
Chair
Greg.
Akins and
Oh.
Commissioner Walker asked for it to be a discussion item today. And just as appropriate, we invited the property owner to come. We're in the very beginning of the 15-day review where the HPC and the City Council have an opportunity to review the proposed minor work permit. And then after the 15 days, if it hasn't been appealed by either the City Council or the HPC, then there's another 10-day appeal period for the public. So I'm going to just turn it over to you to
Okay.
ask me questions or of the.
I'm going to turn it over to
And it-
Craig. He is the one that had the question.
Okay, and again, there's not a determination being made tonight. This is for like asking question and answer period.
Okay, should we see if there's public comments before we
Sure.
move to that? So do either of the property owners want to address the HPC?
We're just here in case you have any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, that's always nice. So we'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this ultimately planning director's discretionary?
This, yes, the
approval?
minor.
It's not going to go to planning, it's,
Right, sorry, I guess, and I could have explained the process a little bit. The minor work permit process is a community development director decision.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
A major work permit, on the other hand, comes before the HPC for their review and consideration.
And it's being brought up here, Councilman Whitman, because there was a request for it to be on our agenda.
Yeah,
And
maybe
so
I could.
I'll turn it over to the requester.
Okay, well, the reason I was interested in it because I was involved back in the day when they were first, it was a grassroots effort to get the historic district going. And I was really fascinated with the process because it really came from the property owners. They wanted to have this historic district because they wanted to protect the neighborhood and its historic integrity and significance. So then I left the commission, and now I'm back on, and this work permit came up, and I had questions about it for a couple of reasons. First of all, because I was on the committee that actually wrote the historic code, and we spent a lot of time on this part of it, on the difference between a minor work permit and a major work permit, and very carefully distinguish the major work permit as those that impact a character-defining feature of the property, and the minor work permit being things that are on extra buildings or parts of the building that aren't character-defining features. And so it surprised me that this was categorized as a minor work permit because it affects the windows, and the windows are specifically called out as character-defining features. And there's a whole list of design guidelines for those windows, which I couldn't find in the report that the community development director submitted. I had to go online and find them. And one of the things as a historic preservation commission we try to do is find a way for the property owner to be able to do what they need to do. I mean, windows do get old, windows do break down, windows do get old and drafty, and they need to be either repaired or replaced. And the historic standards always recommend repair over replacement, but sometimes that's not possible, and you do have to replace your windows and replace your doors. But it needs to be with the understanding that just because the replacement looks exactly like the ones that were there before, it doesn't mean there was no impact on the building, because anytime you replace something, you're lessening the integrity of that building. Obviously, if you completely bulldozed the building and just rebuilt it exactly, it would no longer be a historic building because it would have none of the original materials. So that's one of the things that we have to look at. And so in this case, I did find the design guidelines for the windows and the shutters, and it did look to me like what you're proposing is the same as what was there before. The only thing I saw in the design guidelines, which mind you were prepared by the people who live there, is that replacement windows and shutters must look similar to those existing prior to 1987, the end of the original historic construction period. Current exceptions are grandfathered in until such time as a remodel is undertaken. At that time, all windows, shutters, and trim viewed from the street must reflect the original French Norman appearance. So I didn't really have a clear idea in my mind as to whether this was a remodel or if this was just replacing those windows. But anyway, in thinking about it, I realized that within the design guidelines that were written at the time, that the windows that are selected do fit within the guidelines. So I don't have a problem at all with the windows and their replacement of the doors. But I did want to make that point that maybe the thing we asked about with having the workshop with the city attorney on CEQA laws and the laws of the city ordinance, that would be very helpful, because when I read the ordinance and when we wrote the ordinance, it's just like a whole different document that was quoted as being the justification for this being decided not by the Historic Preservation Commission, but by the Community Development Director. So anyway, I have no problem with them continuing. The only thing that you might want to consider is whether this might be time to look at those shutters and whether you want to add any of those shutters back in. It's not required, by this, but it is something that your neighbors did call out as something that they would like to see those shutters come back to keep the historic look of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I have a question, Craig.
Yes.
You know, when I looked at this, what we have on our packet is section 4-8.116, major and minor work permit procedures, but there's no definition of major and minor work permits in the procedures. So the definition is somewhere else in the code? I didn't have time to go look.
Yes, there is a definition section, and then also in that 4-815, that's where it lays out the minor, and it's very specifically says minor work permits are for areas that are not character defining. So if, for example, and it says are not character defining, or if it might impact a character defining section. And that would be a situation like the roof of the theater where you can't see it from the street. It's not a character defining feature. So that could be a minor work permit, but only if it wouldn't affect a character-defining feature. So you have a character-defining feature in the parapets, the roof line of the theater. Mm-hmm. If that would be affected and cause some damage to it, then it needs to come to the historic preservation. So the idea was before we made this revision of the law, all work permits came to the HPC, every single one, and it didn't make sense that if someone was doing some little minor thing or was repairing an outhouse on the property or something, they wouldn't have to come to us. They could just, the community development director could handle that. But if it was something that was actually part of the historic fabric or feature of the building, then that was something where the Historic Preservation Commission, with our knowledge and our training, should have that oversight.
So this helped to streamline the work permits.
Yes.
This creation. And that, you know, you reminded me, maybe it was a year ago, we had somebody in the arcade that owned 4 buildings, and they were painting the trim, and they had to come in and get the colors approved. And Maura, I think you were here, because the colors, we have an approved set of colors, but Dunn Edwards or whoever it is changed the names of them.
Oh, that was in the arcade.
Yeah, in the arcade, they changed the names. And my suggestion at that time was that we have, you know, that we take those colors with their names or even the formulas, so you're not like dependent on whatever the name is, you know, Spanish white or whatever, and that those are pre-approved colors so that people that want to paint their doors and windows in the arcade don't need to come here. They can just choose from the pre-approved colors. You know, it saves like a whole month of time. It saves somebody having to come in here and say, I want to make the door blue, and we're like, okay, make it blue. You know, I mean, why? So I would love to see that come back here, where we bring those approved colors in, we pick the formulas, and we put it with the city and say, these are the colors that are approved, and they don't need to come back in here to do that.
So those colors that were approved by the HPC back in whatever year that was, they do have codes.
Yeah.
And if someone were to call Dunn Edwards with the code and not the name Spanish white, they could get that color even though it's from the 80s or
Right.
whenever
But they
it
don't
was.
need to come in here to get an approval. I'm just trying to streamline it so
I
they
understand.
don't need to come in here.
I-
They also,
understand.
I remember I worked on a house up on Foothill, and they had us make little color boards where you'd actually put the paint on there so you could
Yeah.
even get it scanned, I guess, by their
Yeah.
machine.
I had to do that for my house, but I think it would be great if we could maybe get that on a future agenda item where we pre-approve all the colors and the formulas, and it's with the city, and it saves anyone in a historic area, for instance, the arcade, having to come in here to get an approval for a color that's already approved. And sorry, this doesn't have anything to do with your windows, but just saying. You know, just
So-
putting it out there.
Could you come to a microphone, please?
And then just tell us your name when you come to the microphone.
Yes.
Thanks.
Schrag and my mother, Ann Schrag.
Yes.
So we're just going from single pane to double pane.
Mhm.
Mother, we got a $700 gas bill this winter. The price of natural gas is going up, so it makes
Yeah.
economic sense at this when we have, the windows are very drafty. My mother's cold all winter long. We're just trying to, make the house, as you said, more energy efficient. I was going to make a point. We were very much behind and supported the historical designation of our neighborhood and want to preserve the look and don't want to change it. So when I asked my neighbors, I told them what we were going to do, they said, oh, you don't need a permit for this. But I'm a cautious person, and I also believe in public oversight. So I came down here, and they said, you do need a permit. So it's interesting. I want to know what to go back and tell my neighbors who are thinking of doing similar things. So it sounds like we should be getting permits for things like this, but is it going to go through now the
Well-
longer process?
No.
Okay.
It sounds like it sounds like you did everything right, and you submitted the application, and it was fit all the requirements, so it's not a problem.
Right, everyone was very helpful here, and we really appreciate that, so it's
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah,
So the
ask
letter-
them to call senior planner Mara Macaluso, please.
The letter that described the process to you that you received, the process is still the same.
The same, okay.
The number of days isn't going to change. They just wanted to discuss it in the meeting tonight.
Okay, so it would still be a minor permit
Yes.
if you're doing what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Great,
Yeah.
thank
We
you for,
appreciate,
thank
we
you
appreciate
both.
you showing up tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for your patience, because it helps us when we have these discussions to help streamline it further. As things come up, we look at how the process is working and how we can make it less onerous. And frankly, I think we should waive fees for minor work permits on any historic properties. I think they should, because normally properties don't need to get a permit for that. So it's almost like a burden. I think that's true, Maura, but I may be wrong. It's almost like a burden if you have a historic
know.
property, and I think that should be waived. So that's another thing on the list. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Think about that one, because we went into this
Good to
for
see you.
many days. Thank you.
That was item number 6.
Just a conversation.
Just since the email came up in, or the question came up in email exchange, the Woolsey House is another item that's currently in a minor work permit and currently in the 15-day process, correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
But it's not on the agenda to be discussed this evening.
okay, great. That was my question.
But it should be noted that had it been a major work permit, we could have approved it tonight, and they would be able to do their work tomorrow. Now they're going to have to wait till when to do their work?
They would still be going through an appeal process if they were here tonight, but I don't know what the dates are exactly. And, yeah, they've got a 15-day for, going through a minor process is slightly shorter than going through a major work permit process, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Ever so slightly. It's supposed to be a streamlined process, actually, going through the minor, but it's just a very little bit streamlined.
Right, no, I think we were all agreed that we wanted to streamline it, but
Right, but I'm saying the streamlining process is barely streamlined. It's only like 3 days short of what would happen if they were actually coming to the HPC, besides the fact that the HPC meets once a month.
Mhm.
And so projects could be in the process in between those meetings.
I have a question about the Woolsey House application. So will you be providing drawings or photos or something
So
about
you-
the wall and the?
You'll receive a package or a letter
It's already been sent out.
via email? Okay, thank you,
Mhm.
Sherry. It's already been sent out, so you should have received it. And just like this 10 Taormina, the Historic Preservation Commission and the City Council has 15 days to review that. And then after that 15-day period, then there's a 10-day appeal period for the rest of the public.
Well, I did get materials on it. I just don't remember seeing anything depicting the replacement of
Okay, if you have any questions, you can call me.
Okay, sounds good.
You're always invited to call staff if you have any questions about this agenda or any other HPC item that you receive in the mail.
Okay. So it's a general question, though, about the materials in it.
If you want to talk about the materials, you can call me, because I can't discuss it tonight, because it's not on the,
I
it's not
see.
on the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Call Senior Planner Mara
Okay.
Macaluso.
Okay, Brian. I got a promotion.
Yes.
Yay.
I asked her if I could mention that. She said, if you want. So I just wanted to highlight that, and congratulations. Okay, so I think we are back to item number 4. Is that correct? Item number 4?
Yes, that is correct.
Staff report, please.
Item number 4. So each year, the Historic Preservation Commission identifies individuals or organizations or projects that should be recognized for the annual Historic Preservation Award. An annual Historic Preservation Award honors those who have made a significant contribution to the historic preservation or restoration of the city's unique historical and cultural heritage. The goal is to grant an award at a city council meeting in December.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this time of year, every year, that we go through this process of the commissioners choosing someone or organization. So a copy of the criteria and procedure is attachment A
Mm-hmm.
of this item. And staff recommends that the commission identify potential recipients for the award for 2023 to allow adequate time for the commission to gather information and prepare biographies. It's anticipated that the next HPC meeting in August, the commission would both nominate and make a motion to adopt a resolution making a recommendation to the city council to ratify its decision. The city council will need to ratify the recommendation in a November meeting to be able to present the award in December. Staff is requesting that the commission identify one or more candidates for the 2023 award. The table here in your packet, it has been provided as a guide for selection of candidates to consider. And in your packet, you'll see the criteria, which is attachment A, page 1 of 1. And you'll also see the previous award winners going back to 1991. And then, so if we look on the back of the first page, so it's 2 of 2, we have the commissioner who is recommending someone, and then the person that you're recommending, and then the commissioner that's going to provide the bio, or brief bio at the next meeting about this person, and they also, we need to talk about, or you need to talk about the criteria for nominating that person, which is attachment A, 1 of 1. And whether or not it's preservation, award preservation, or lifetime achievement. So I'm going to put this back to you.
Okay, great. I keep forgetting to open and close all the discussion items, even with my cheat sheet in front of me, so.
So I guess I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to my recommendations. I just told you what you're doing, but the recommendations is that you review the criteria, which was the second page,
Mhm.
and then that tonight you can identify candidates,
Mhm.
and then assign who is going to prepare the biographies for the next meeting.
Yes,
So we can go to the list together and start that process.
okay. So I'm going to start that process with a nomination. Here is that items. There's extra.
Thank you.
So there's a kind of description to the process, 2012. I've always been big into family histories, done several oral histories with family members. And so in 2012, being on the board of the Ojai Valley Museum, I initiated the process of doing oral history interviews with individuals. We jokingly said that we were trying to interview them before they passed away. So I put out the call to the museum members, asked them for suggestions, got those suggestions, asked them if they wanted to be the ones that interviewed them, or we would get someone else to go and do that interview. So as it says in the document, and I've been out and recorded every one of those and gone along with the individuals that did the recordings. We've actually, since 2012, as it says in there, recorded 67 individuals. I will tell you, enthusiasm starts everything. 28 of those 67 were interviewed in the first 2 years. Joyce Robinson, who is one of our board members, then and now, picked up the ball, and what will happen, somebody will say, oh, have you interviewed so-and-so? Who is so-and-so? So we'll find out who they are, and then we will contact them. I'll say, Joyce, hey, can we set up a interview with these individuals? The latest one that we just did was David Nakata. David Nakata's family was taken from, they lived in LA, then they moved up to Ojai. Their family was actually relocated to Manzanar, and so he was talking about remembering his days as a child in Manzanar, and so we recorded that. You can see the other people that have been interviewed. First one we interviewed was Alan Raines, of all people, right up in his office, and so over the years you can see the different people. Again, as I noted below, at least 5 of these people have passed away. And so item number 4, can I see that criteria? Item number 4 is historical research, parentheses, including oral history supporting historic preservation. And so I would like to nominate Joyce Robinson for the annual award. Preservation, and the criteria for nomination is item number 4. And I would be the commissioner or citizen to provide the brief bio in our next meeting.
I'm sorry, Chairman, did you say the award preservation or the lifetime achievement?
Award preservation, the annual
you.
award,
Thank you.
even though we have been doing it for,
So are we
11
going to
years.
discuss all the names and then vote? Is that, I don't remember what we did last year, but I think that's what we did. We didn't do it one by one.
so I think what we do is we put 4 names,
Oh,
and then that information is brought to the next HPC
Oh.
meeting, because many people don't know who these individuals are. And then if we get the information and provide that and put it in the packet, then individuals will be able to have that information, and then we'll be able to firm up the selection
I
for the
thought
individual.
last year, or maybe it was the Thomas Fire, I thought we decided in the meeting who was going to get it, but I don't remember. Anyway, so we're just going to say all the names and the criteria. I feel like it's different every year. Okay.
It is.
So I have a few
Every
names.
year.
Can I go next? Is
Yes,
that okay?
yes, please.
Okay, surprise, surprise. Brian Akins, Lifetime Achievement Award, just cut right to the chase.
Oh,
Because criteria 2, 4, and 6. Criteria 2, Brian is adamant about protection of historic and prehistoric archaeological sites. You know, you're practically running around with an archaeological outfit on. Criteria 4, historical research, including oral history, like you just said with this interview, and supporting historic preservation, which you do every day, and you have since I've met you. And then criteria number 6, grassroots organizational efforts in historic preservation, going door to door and trying to make everybody preserve everything they have. So I nominate you for a Lifetime Achievement Award.
well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I have 2 others.
And would you be providing the brief bio?
I'm not sure, TBD, because I don't know if I'll still be on the commission. I might retire, you guys.
You can still provide the bio even if you're not on the
Oh,
commission.
okay, well, maybe. Gina might want to do that.
We'll
I
figure
don't
it
want
out.
to, like, take her fun away.
Okay.
Can we, like, TBD that, please?
I think that it would be appropriate to say that
I'll
you'll
say yes,
do
and then
it,
I'll ask
and
Gina to
then-
do it.
There you go. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So I have 2 others I'd like to nominate for just a regular historic preservation award. and this one I really feel strongly about, are the owners of the El Roblar Hotel. I just went on a tour of what they're doing. You know, they're, however far they are through, they're going to open next year, but they've stuck exactly to the plan that was approved. They went, I think, above and beyond to source the correct materials and really restore the hotel to a lot of its original detail, and, you know, keep it intact as a hotel in Ojai and as it originally looked. So I would like to nominate them for a historic preservation award for that reason, you know, just the extra mile they've gone and the price that it's cost, you know, to create that hotel in the style that it will be when it's finished. And the fact that they really stuck to their original plan, the plan that was approved, you know, just right on time, and they're really, really focused on that. I don't know if any of you have been in there during the construction, but it's quite impressive. And I like the idea of giving them the award even though the hotel isn't complete because of the diligence in creating it. And that means when it does open, I believe they're scheduled to open in the summer, they'll have received this award, and I think it's a really great partnership with the city of Ojai to support this development with that in mind in advance of the hotel opening. I think it's just a great way to send the message out, you know, that we support preservation and development here. So owners of the El Roblar, and that is criteria number 1, preservation of historic resources, 2, protection of historic and prehistoric archaeological sites, and 5, design and planning efforts to preserve historic properties, mostly 5. Okay, and then this maybe is another one, it could be this year or next year, but Mark and Kathy Hartley, I can't believe they haven't been nominated or received an award. They leased the Playhouse from Khaled. They restored the inside years ago. You know, they put new seats and they kept the picture of Anthony Quinn, thank God. You know, they just kept it like really nice. And they bought the Lavender Inn and they restored the Lavender Inn, you know, perfectly as it should be in its exact same, you know, position and look. And they are really, really devoted preservationists. And they're, you know, they're very involved and they're very supportive and they're kind of very quiet about it. So Mark and Kathy Hartley for 2, protection of historic sites, 5, design and planning efforts to preserve historic properties like the Lavender Inn and the work they did on the Playhouse before it was designated, and number 1, preservation of historic resources through conservation and or restoration of a historic building. So those are my 3, Brian Lifetime, El Roblar, regular, and Mark and Kathy Hartley, regular award.
And I have you written down as the commissioner to provide the brief bio for all 3.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Wait, those guys
So,
want to do a bio.
we
I can
filled
see
up-
it in his eyes. Rick wants to do it.
We filled up the 4, but I
Oh,
don't
is that
think,
too
I don't
many?
think
Well, you
that
can throw
we're,
it
I don't believe that we're limited to 4 if the other 2 commissioners have people that they'd like to nominate.
Yeah, today's the nomination process, so
Right, that's
we'll,
what,
we'll slim it down if needs be
No,
at the
yeah,
next
mine are
meeting.
just
Exactly.
suggestions, you know, I mean, you can debate it if you want.
You might want to stick around to vote, you know. Okay, Craig, Rick?
I have 2 I'm nominating. One is Mark Lewis for his writings about historical things in Ojai, and especially recently the book on Gray Gables that he and Craig did together. I would nominate Craig, except he's already an award holder, so I don't know if
both
you
of
can
them.
repeat those. What's that?
I said both awards, actually.
What, both of them what?
Craig has received both awards. The
Yeah.
Award Preservation and the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right, right.
So, yes.
But I don't
Well
see
deserved.
Mark Lewis on here, and I've read other things he's written about the history of Ojai. One which was that I remember distinctly was about the Thomas Fire, with a lot of historic references to the Drawn family. The Major Drawn was deeply involved in the community, and I thought that was a great article that Mark wrote following the Thomas Fire. And my other nomination would be for the Ojai Playhouse restoration and renovation, which is David Berger. That, of course, is also not quite finished, but the facade is really shaped up in the last weeks, and you can really tell how it's coming together. And that, of course, is for historic renovation and restoration, number 1 and 5, I guess. Yes.
Did you provide the criteria for Mark Lewis?
I did not, but that would be numbers 3 and 4.
And will you be providing the brief bio for both of these?
Well, that seems appropriate.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rick. Craig?
And do we include the bio before we select down the final ones? It would seem like if you
It's a-
called the person to get a bio and then you told them they didn't make the cut, it might be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
That's
mean,
what I
it can be a delicate thing, but I mean, I usually tell people that they're being considered, they've been nominated, and I'm getting the information so that
Okay.
the next step on selection.
I
Yes.
feel like but Brian, I have a very strong memory that we did what Craig just said, which is we chose the recipients and then contacted them. Or maybe we did our own bios and didn't contact them until it was decided, and then we finalized the bio with the input from the
And
recipient.
that seems to make sense.
That seems a little safer. Is that what we did?
I remember that from years ago
Yeah.
as well.
So we're going to write a bio based on our own input and then vote and then finalize it with the recipient. Okay, good, that's better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I have a couple. I would like to nominate Janice Cash. She writes historical columns for online. If you go to any of the Ojai sites, like the other Ojai or Ojai Community Network.
Facebook sites.
And Facebook, yeah. She writes these wonderful, well-researched,
Fabulous.
well-illustrated little columns about Ojai history and Ventura County history as well. So I just think a lot of people get a lot of educating about Ojai history from reading her columns. And she does it all just voluntarily and for the passion of it. So I think she would make a good nominee anyway. And I also thought about Wendy Barker, because she runs the museum. She was instrumental in helping to get the book together, not to detract from Mark, but she was very instrumental in helping to get that book going, the grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and then bringing the whole thing to fruition. She also put on some great historic exhibitions. So anyway, I thought she should be called out at some point and given an award. And then the only other one I thought of is because of the pandemic, I hadn't really kind of put a lot of things together, but I thought the people, I don't even remember their names, who did the Hummel House who landmarked the Hummel House up on Signal Street. I thought they did a great job in
Yeah.
putting together
That's
their-
one way up at the top,
way up at the top.
behind the wall.
Yeah, and it was designed by Fred Hummel Jr., who also was the project manager for the Reagan Library, and he designed the music festivals building as well. But anyway, I just thought that's always should be recognized when somebody like you, Cindy, puts your house that you've fixed up and you've restored, that you put that on as a landmark for the community to appreciate.
Yeah, it's a big commitment.
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed in the history of the different recipients that some years there's been as many as 4 awards. What is the
Yeah.
thing with that?
Why do we have 3 now? Why is that decided?
We don't. It's kind of been an accordion over the years.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it's
So
flexible.
sometimes we have one, sometimes we have more.
But is it flexible? I don't know that it's written anywhere that it's only, you
No,
know.
it's,
Right, I believe it is flexible, and, you know, should 20 people receive an award in 1 year, there are more years to come, or is something really standing out in 2023?
Yeah.
You will all decide that at your next meeting.
yes.
Craig, or Commissioner Walker, if you could please provide the criteria for your 3 different, you have Janice Cash.
Excuse me, for Janice, I put number 4, historical research.
Okay.
She just does an amazing job on that. And for Wendy, she covers a lot of bases, but particularly number 3 and number 1, preservation of historic resources through conservation, and then also interpretation. The book that we did on Greg Gables was actually, that was the grant, was to create interpretive materials around a historic property. So it was a team effort, but she was the overseer of the team and kind of got the whole project.
Yeah, it was a partnership between the
Yeah.
3 of you,
Mhm.
and, but, you know, and her in supporting you so that you and Mark could create the fabulous book that you did. Yeah.
And the Hummel House would be number 1, preservation of historic resources.
Yes.
And you will be providing the
I'll
brief
see if I
bio.
can find the name of the people, and,
Yeah, that would be important.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
Tiffany Rochelle.
it's probably in the records
That's
somewhere.
right. That was one of my first
Sherry
projects,
just
and that's the day I met Brian Akins.
I know
Tiffany
you were
Ro-
hanging out by the
By the gate, yep, Tiffany Rochelle, that's right.
Okay. Do you have all the information you need, Mara?
I do, and it'll be the 4 of you that will be providing the commission, or providing me the brief bios. And I will email you and give you a deadline for those so we can get them into the next packet, so you can review them prior to the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, you will all talk about which ones do you want to go forward,
Okay,
to go to council.
great.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, that's where that happened to that. Trying to keep these all organized. Okay, we're on to item number 5. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item
Item-
number 5.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, it took me a second there. So item number 5 is, the subject is structures of merit for, to discuss the, updating the list that was approved by the city council to update and take back to the council for adoption. And so after the agenda went out, we received an updated list, or items or sites to update the list.
Mm-hmm.
And so the commission has had an opportunity to look at that, and tonight you can talk about the structures of merit list going forward. I'm going to hand this over to the chair.
Okay, great, thank you. So what we have in the packet is the information that was available to us when the agenda was put in place and when it was distributed. We did talk about the historic structures of merit in the joint council meeting we had with the council. At that time, it was just the 37, I believe 37 sites that Craig presented. It was presented in the package as a slideshow. I think that what the package just had was printouts for the documents. It was a fabulous presentation. Was just sorry that we didn't have more time to discuss it during the joint council meeting. So the items that we're talking about tonight are what we're talking about tonight are the items that were in the packet. As Mara said, subsequent information was provided by Craig in an email that had a list of, I have the email list of the additional sites that Craig was referencing. Again, because that came after the essentially the packet had gone out, that has been classified as a comment. You'll see that showing up on the city website. So that is something that we can acknowledge but take no action on. To me, the action on the additional items that Craig listed and that Craig did a fabulous slideshow. I looked at it last night and walked through it. I think that is an item to, I would recommend that that be discussed in the ad hoc, the Downtown Historic District ad hoc between yourself and Gina, and because it does involve many of the properties that are part of the Downtown Historic District proposal, and that that part of it, the new part, be brought back as an item, if decided by the ad hoc, be brought back as an item on the next agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, Brian, can I comment on that?
Of course.
I went through and I tried to come up with a list of suggestions because
Yes.
the list is long overdue for an upgrade. But in coming up with this list of suggestions, and they're only my suggestions,
Bless you.
I did think that this is something that may take a little bit more time with the commission to come up with the updates. But I do feel it is important to get the list approved by the council. So my feeling is that we should ask the council to approve the vetted list of properties, with one exception could be removed, is the ISIS Theater, because it's already a landmark, and so it wouldn't be appropriate for this. So with that one removed, I would recommend that we approve this, and that then we take this list that I put together, and I'd be happy to explain how I came up with the list, but then have that be something that the commissioners could think about over the next few months, because I think it is true that the historic district, if it is passed and it does go through, many of these items will then not be even eligible anymore for this particular list of structures of merit, because they're non-landmarked properties. So I'm happy with that. I think this gives everybody something to look at and think about, but I would want to see us vote to send the list minus the ISIS Theater to the council for their approval.
Yeah, I think that's entirely within our, what we're talking about as a part of a discussion item in the agenda. And then I would recommend that people look at I think everybody got, the commissioners got an email, blank copied email. Mara? Blank copied email of the information that Craig submitted that came through essentially as a public comment,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, they
Okay,
did.
so everybody then got the link that was on that, along with the information for that.
Yes.
So I would encourage them to look at that document, just because it's a beautiful document. It has all kinds of history, and between now and the next meeting, and then
Did everybody get a copy of the slideshow? Because that could be sent out to accompany the list, because people might not
Well,
know, well, what picture, what does that look
yeah,
like?
that's what I was talking about, was the slideshow.
Yeah, I don't think that went out.
Did that?
I'm looking to see if that went out right now, and if it didn't, it certainly can be.
Okay, yeah, again, I thought that was a continuing part of your
Have a
comment.
public
Yep,
comment.
yep, I saw him getting that. Okay, so yes, I think we can address the ones that we talked with the council about tonight on what action we want to take, and then just the other ones available for people to look at between now and the next meeting.
Just a quick
Sister
comment, that the slideshow that we got at the joint meeting I would say the vast majority of them, it was very obvious why they were significant, but there were a handful that I would have wanted to know more about before stamping that significance label. And so when you do present it to us, I would suggest that, you know, spend some time on the ones that maybe aren't as well-known and obscure, is my suggestion. Okay. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you were to forward the current sites of merit list minus the ISIS Theater, then discuss the other list that Commissioner Walker has provided.
Yeah, that's for a future meeting.
Right. But if you were to forward the current list minus the ISIS Theater without updating it, then it's not updated, and you would be discussing other items without them, you know, it would be a whole nother process.
So my understanding, when we talked about updating in the joint council meeting, because we've talked about updating the historical structures of merit several times over the last 10 years, was that Craig was updating the sites of the historical structures of merit for their current status, because what we've seen, if you go back to the original document that Craig put out, many of those, beyond just the ISIS Theater, are now landmarks. And so updating to me was to look at that document that he presented to the council and update that document as to what items, as he just said, have been landmarked.
I see.
So I think what's important is we did update that list, and it was sent to the council, but it never made the agenda, the one in 2019.
Uh-huh.
So what we're doing is sending that list to the council to get the list established, and these are bona fide historic properties that we would like to see on the list. But if we wanted to add more, which would be maybe some of these that are on this list, after we finish the historic district and we've kind of sorted that out, then we would come back with a whole other item that would be the update to that list to add additional properties.
And you would be going back to council for that update.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, so based on what you're saying, Craig, so an option would be for us to forward the list that we discussed with the council with the caveat to ask them where could we provide them more information, like Councilman Whitman just said. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I think we would just send this list to them, and then when we make our presentation, right, we would forward more. When we submit a packet for that item, we would go through and just beef up some of the descriptions of the properties that aren't as well known, like the pergola is obviously very well known, and we have that data, but maybe the Daniel Webster House isn't quite so well known, and maybe the description could be updated a little more. Is that what you meant to?
Yeah.
So you're talking about updating the current list, updating the current list and giving more explanation.
Yeah, more explanation.
Sure,
but
more description.
These are the properties we'll stick with for this first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's,
I have a question for you,
Yes.
Craig. Why didn't you include the cottages among the flowers and the Troy Lodge, it's called, on Mallory Way?
Well, they're in this other update.
Oh, okay.
They're in there because,
Do I have that? I don't know that I have that.
yeah, it's under documented eligible historic resources. There's number 55.
Oh, okay.
And I left them in even though a decision has been made, because first of all, the Troy Lodges, they're supposed to be preserving 8 of those and using the Secretary of the Interior standards to keep them historic and want them to be historic, so they should be recognized by the city as historic.
Okay,
And the-
yeah, I just wasn't sure why they weren't on the yellow sheet.
On the yellow
Yeah,
sheet.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know.
so you answered it, but they're part of the list.
They're part of what we're working on for an update.
Got it.
Right, they're not on the current
Yeah,
sites of merit list, they're on
Yeah.
a future.
okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure they were existing in the conversation.
Right, there's a lot of properties when you think about it.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of information the three of us put together,
Right.
not knowing that the state had done a 142-page report. Okay, so action item for this? Do we have a motion that we want to make, and are we ready for a motion to make to move this along to the city council, or what are your thoughts, Craig?
Yes, I move that we ask the city council to approve.
Turn your mic on.
Almost,
I
Sherry.
move that
almost
we
made
ask
it.
the city council to approve the list of structures of merit.
Okay, minus the ISIS
Minus
theater.
the ISIS Theater?
The what?
Minus the ISIS Theater?
Yes, I'm sorry, minus the ISIS Theater.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Cindy. Sherry?
Akins,
Yes,
Convery,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Craig, for all your work on this. Okay, we are moving to item number 6. We already did.
Correct, so now we have item number 7.
Item number 7, proposed local downtown historic district ad hoc committee's progress report. There'll be a in-depth detail report that's planned for our next meeting. Gina is, as folks can see, is out of town enjoying a getaway. Craig, do you have anything? You did some presented some fabulous information last time in talking about the different overlays.
Right, I
Do you have
just
anything to
haven't
add to
had a
that?
lot of time to go back to that because I was working on the structures of merit. But Gina and I are going to dedicate the rest of the summer, to putting together a substantial nomination for the commission to consider in the early fall, maybe in September.
Excellent. Okay, great. And that is our update. Do you have any? Okay. So that is item number 7. Number 8, discuss the use of the Ojai Unified School District. I guess you left. School district is starting their meeting in 2 minutes. Discuss the use of the Ojai Unified School District properties as offered to the community for public input by Ojai Unified School District. So I have been in, since our last meeting, as I said I would, I have been in contact with Atticus Reyes, the board president, and also I attended the Ojai Unified School District is having several outreach meetings. I think there's 4 this week, and then there's 2 next week. So I attended the first one they held, which was, I think, 2 days ago from 8:30 to 9:30. That was conducted by their new superintendent, Cheryl Knox, although she's been there for 9 years in different functions, but has been named as the new superintendent. And I think there's discussion taking place at tonight's meeting with her. So there's 2 things, and Mara and I talked about this. So they put out, actually Cheryl put out a survey, and that survey's in our package just so that we have that information. I was told, when Craig made me aware of it, I called and I left messages, called and talked with Atticus, got some insight into that. So that is a document that was prepared at that time by interim superintendent Cheryl Knox, and she sent it out to the parents of the students throughout the community. It was also published, I think, by Kathy Smith, board member, Kathy Smith, who was here, and placed on the Ojai Unified School District's Facebook page. That's where I was pointed to, and I saw it. So I talked to Atticus. The request was to put it on our agenda, just so that we're aware of it. There was some confusion with the newspaper. I talked with Kimberly and cleared that up. the other day on whose survey was being talked about. It is an agenda item on the Ojai Unified School District agenda tonight. It's item number 4.1. It is in the section of their agenda where if anyone sends from outside sends documents to the school, documentation of the school, such as the VCOE, I know that's one of their acronyms. I have no idea. Ventura County Office of Education, maybe? I don't know. So, but that was the example she used. So again, talking with Superintendent Knox, who happens to live right around the corner from us. That is a document they put out in the meeting that she held. It was a 1-hour meeting. They went over, there were 8 people that showed up. Basically, it was kind of a Q&A for people who had questions on the survey. I had agreed to go to it just because I was curious what people might be asking. Again, she said they had 100 surveys that had been submitted by that time. If people want to get their own information on what's going on with the school district, people, whether they're on the commission or whether they're in the public and listening to that, I wholeheartedly invite them and suggest that they go and attend one of those 1-hour meetings. They're very informative. But again, we are on their agenda because we said, and I think Cheryl said that she received communications from the city on the 7th, and that's what initiated that. So I thought it was because I had talked to Atticus on the 7th. So I'm wondering if Lucas sent some kind of information to the city on the 7th.
I sent an email to the school district letting them know that we had an agenda on our, an item on our agenda this evening.
Great, thank you. And so that's why it's on the agenda for tonight. I wholeheartedly applauded them for reaching out to all of the people. Again, it's on the Facebook page, so that's open to the public. So a couple important things, and especially after Tuesday night's council meeting, the guidance, and Mara and I have talked about this, we as HPC we as private individuals, not HPC members, are free to comment and fill out the survey however we wish to. But again, we are doing so as private individuals, not as Historic Preservation Commission members. Okay, that's something that we need to be very clear. But again, as private citizens, and if you feel like you would like to make any suggestions to them, that would be the method to do. Again, not representing yourself as members of the Historic Preservation Commission. Now, on our site, and again, this agenda was, again, thank you, Craig, for bringing that to my attention. So the other side of the agenda is that we, as a Historic Preservation Commission, could decide to make the suggestion I had was offers of assistance. And I mentioned this both to Atticus and to Board President Reyes and to Superintendent Cheryl Knox. I have to go through the names. That we would be happy to help. We have individuals on our commission, Cindy, Craig, Gina, who could be helpful to them. Just on the look at adaptive reuse of the buildings or of funds, state and federal funds that may be available if they're trying to upgrade, or not upgrade, refurbish, restore the historic properties that are on the Matilaha campus, and that is available, or that, we'll decide tonight whether we want to make that offer. If we do want to make any communication to the Ojai Unified School District, Mara reminds me, and it's in the instructions are in our packet, that information has to go through the city council. No information is to go directly from no official information is to go directly from the Historic Preservation Commission to the school board. So those are two different things. If you're an individual and you want to fill out the survey, we have a copy in ours just so we know what they're looking at. I also reiterated to Atticus and reiterated to Superintendent Knox, because there had been a little confusion, which got straightened out with the newspaper, who thought that was our survey, that we don't care about any properties that are outside the city of Ojai. That's not our purview, not our interest.
It's not that we don't care.
Excuse me, I said that when I was talking to them. We do care that they're historic, but they're outside the city.
Jurisdiction issue, right?
It is, it is.
Although we do have a feature in our ordinance that talks about cooperating in our sphere of influence, which is a little broader and includes schools like Miners Oaks Elementary, so.
It is. So it is. So it's just walking a very fine type line. I mean, we had our slideshow, their survey, and who the owners were got totally mixed up. And we ended up in the newspaper as the one that's in our document, because it's in our document originating from us. Therefore, making it looking as though we were talking about what to do with the San Antonio project, the Summit School project. So I told them that is outside our purview. And for anybody else that's watching this that wants to put us on Facebook or the news, that's for you. Lots of time on the phone. Again, the question is, what might we provide, and it goes along with what you just said, Craig. You know, we have knowledge that can help them in adaptive reuse. Cindy has talked about that previously. The question would be, how do we, staying within the lines of from us to the City Council to the Ojai Unified School District, how do we make that offer, if we're willing to make that offer?
Well, Brian, so we're actually coming up with a communication to the council, right? And I think we should urge them to partner with the district, to cooperate with them and try to work together with the district to find the best uses for these properties. And as part of that, the Historic Preservation Commission is ready, willing, and able to offer whatever assistance is needed.
I have a question too. What happened to our conversation about doing an ad hoc committee with the school board and two of us and two of them that we talked about when Atticus was here?
Yeah, there was a 2+2
Yeah,
committee.
that
I don't
went
know.
away. I mean, that should happen. That's like cut to the chase and not have to go through the city council to have a conversation with somebody.
Because it seems to me
Yeah.
where things went kind of wrong on the district office property was there wasn't really good communication between the city and the school board. They were creating plans that I'm not even sure that
No.
the city could have approved.
Nobody was talking to
There was
anybody.
not really
Yeah.
I was talking to
partnership.
everybody, but
Can
yes.
I, actually,
understand.
I have some comments about tonight. I was kind of surprised to see it on our agenda the way it is because, you know, we don't have any authority here or to have a discussion about what happens with that property. You know, I guess it's just on here so we can sort of have a general conversation. But when I looked at this preliminary discussion from the school board and how you can go online and fill out your thoughts, they need expertise. This is exactly the problem that happened with Chaparral. They had people on the school board who have full-time jobs elsewhere. They're not adaptive reuse experts. They're not developers. They're not low-income housing experts, which is extremely complicated, and yet they're trying to develop these properties and create financial models. They're not financial model experts. They have other full-time jobs. You know, they're part-time elected officials. And, you know, I strongly urge them to hire a professional to do some presentations about what has been done in this country, how it's worked, what has succeeded, what has failed, instead of just throwing it out there to the public and saying, what do you guys think? And then you have, you know, somebody wants a mall and somebody wants a park and somebody wants a merry-go-round. I mean, but there's no like expertise behind it. and there's no what succeeded and what's done well. There's just people throwing out, I want a skate park, or I want a water park, or I want, a shoe factory. I mean, where are the hidden motives from who's doing this? The developers that want to turn it into their own, private world. So I just see them, it's my opinion, just they're walking down the same road into the same swamp that happened with Chaparral and that development. They're getting like random input, and if they're going to make a decision, I don't know how many people are on the school board, 5 or 7, but they're making a decision without all the information. They're making a decision without expertise because none of them have it, nor should they. It's not their job. They're not adaptive reuse developers or school, contractors. They're people with one's an attorney, one is somebody else, one's somebody else. So it just seems like a huge disaster waiting to happen. I had a short conversation with Atticus, and I just pulled up the article, and I will send it to you, Maura, to share with everybody. I've been involved with the National Trust for how many million years? 15, not a million, maybe like 15, so not that long. But I've been on tours all over the country, Baltimore, Oklahoma, Detroit, San Antonio, of adaptive reuse properties and what has happened. And one of the most incredible properties, and I'm looking at it right now, is the old Douglas High School in Oklahoma City. It was in a neighborhood that, started to go downhill over the course of 30, 40, 50 years. Property taxes couldn't support it. Enrollment declined. Similar problems here. And Oklahoma City is fantastic at adaptive reuse and historic preservation, and it's made that Oklahoma City an extremely valuable place. It's not, real estate's gone up, it's driving population growth, and it's all because of these incredible properties they're creating. So they took this high school and left it completely intact and turned it into 60 apartments. So you walk up into a high school, you open the high school doors, there's a drinking fountain, there's lockers, you're in a high school, and you open a classroom door and you're in your apartment. I mean, it's incredible. It's really, really cool, and it's really good. I don't know if it's a fit for Matilaha, but that is a residential neighborhood. That is not a neighborhood that can support a development or a commercial property. It can't support the traffic. If I lived on across from Matilaha, I would really, be dreading whatever happens with that property other than a school or something like this with housing. So I'm just, I'm looking at this incredible adaptive reuse project, and I told it to Atticus, and he was like shocked that something like that exists. He had no idea because he didn't know where to look, because he's not an adaptive reuse historian. He's a guy with a job, and he's on the school board. So, I'm just trying to illustrate that they need professional help to do it right and keep the community intact and keep people focused on what's right for the community. And it's not something that you just wake up one day and know how to do. It just isn't. It takes years to understand how to do these things. And you have to look at what has been successful across the country in similar communities and what has not been successful, and avoid those mistakes, or you end up with a food fight like what happened at Chaparral. And then the school district has really suffered from that. They're in the same place they were in, whatever it was, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very I'm very concerned about their having a meeting tonight and having quote-unquote community input, and about how to go forward with that without having options for the community to discuss.
But the one thing I thought was positive that came out of that experience was they asked their architect to make a shopping center and a 200-room hotel and include the historic buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And the architect, when he got that direction, he did it. He
Mhm.
made beautiful use of those historic buildings, and he even said, we're going to restore the original tower that was on the building, and he was all excited about doing an adaptive reuse. So
Yeah.
I think the fear that somehow if you have a historic landmark that you're going to be stuck with an albatross around your neck trying to develop it is just not really, like you say, looking
Exactly.
in the right places
Yeah.
and getting the
So
right.
let me go to Maura, and then I have update.
Okay, so the reason I was trying to get your attention is, I think that the last sentence here in the little, very brief staff report is that the commissioner's input will be forwarded to the city council for review and consideration. So I think what you need to do is decide if you want to forward comments to the city council or not, because what we're getting into tonight so far is actually giving comments as to what you think. So do you want to have comments together to forward to the city council?
I think
Or
what
do you
we're
want
doing
to?
is discussing kind of ideas in general.
Well, I
and
think
then
you have to
getting-
discuss-
and then
you have to
moving
dis-
into that. We
Okay.
have to talk
I
about.
think the idea that Brian had of just saying
Yeah.
we're willing to help, we're
Yeah.
available, and we encourage a cooperative effort between the city and the,
And having that
Just very
2+2
general.
ad hoc committee with the school board and two
Yeah.
commissioners. But more, I think, because we're not allowed to talk to each other outside of the meeting, if we said, hey, we want to have a 2+2 ad hoc committee or whatever you want to call it, and yeah, sure, go do that, but what do you want to talk about? We wouldn't have come to that. But by having conversations in here, we can kind of dial that in a little bit more closely.
I just didn't want the commissioners to go too far without deciding that
Yeah.
you do want your comments to go to the city council to then be forwarded to the school district, because you're doing exactly what, you are making recommendations. And I know they're just thoughts, and you're just kind of flying around with thoughts, and that's fantastic. But again, are you gathering information to then decide, these are the couple of things we want to send forward, and, we don't want to actually give specific recommendations, or we just want to invite them to partner with us? I just want to put
Yeah.
back on you what it is that you're doing and that what you want to be on in your minutes for the next meeting and on camera tonight. So,
I think it should be very general, and it shouldn't appear like we're trying to tell them what to do.
No.
We're just saying that we like the fact they're doing this master plan, that sounds positive, and that we like the idea of them cooperating and partnering with the city where possible, maybe through this 2+2 committee.
We
and
also
then-
have a speaker.
oh, thank you, Sherry.
We have a
I love it
speaker.
when that
Thank you,
voice
Sherry, but before we go to the
Jane.
speaker, I wanted to just come back, and I wanted to hone in on what was happening right now. I'm sorry, did you have something? Did you just say something?
I think the speaker left about an hour ago.
Oh, no.
Is this
Sherry has
online?
somebody online. Yeah.
Is this online, Sherry?
Yes, Jane Weil.
Oh, okay. I saw Jane the other morning.
So I wanted to, I was listening to Commissioner Walker and just wanted to kind of, I guess in the end here, we'll come up with some language that then I'm going to forward on to the city council. And what you were just saying, sounded great, and so I was just trying to scribble it down real quick. But if you want to go to the speaker, that's fantastic.
Okay, well, again, these are internal deliberations, nothing going out from here, just brainstorming on what we can do. Once we are done with that, we do have a liaison at the council with us, so I was going to ask him if he has any insight that he might share with us on that. We can certainly go to the speaker and bring Jane online.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, Jane.
Great. I was really pleased to hear Commissioner Walker talk about the idea of being available to answer questions and to give advice. I think we ran into the district and the city council not working well together in the past. And I just wanted to remind the HPC that the majority of courts in California have held state agencies immune from local regulations. The rationale being that state agencies operate under a higher authority. And that's not to say that they don't recommend that you incorporate consideration of preservation ordinances, but they don't tend to support requiring the districts, the state agencies to follow local ordinances. So I'm recommending that the district board and the community use the Historic Preservation Committee as an education to learn some of those things. I think some of the comments by the gentlewoman, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, were very inflammatory. That's not what the district is talking about. No, they're talking about hopefully using those properties in a much more education-based format. There's no talks of malls or ski resorts or anything like that. And I think that that's really detrimental to this community to speak in that way. I think the beginning of your conversation about your recommendations and your ability to serve as council are wonderful ideas. And I think it's highly, I think that's just the best way to go. So thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you, Jane, for your input. Yeah, so what I laid out was exactly what I shared and discussed with Atticus last Friday, and what I discussed after the meeting that you and I were in the other morning in talking with Superintendent. Are is she talking about Cindy?
I don't know, I'm a gentleman, so I guess so.
Did she say gentleman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought she,
I don't know what she said.
Gentle
but
person?
Yeah, that was definitely taken out
Oh,
of
okay.
context. I mean, that was,
yeah,
referencing that was definitely taken out
yeah.
of context.
So council liaison. I guess the question is, informally, I have said both to the board president and to Cheryl after the meeting that I attended. And the only time I talked about was when I talked about the adaptive reuse of the Oakview School, the Oakview Park and Resource Center, because they may have properties that they put up for sale in a neighborhood. In our case, we didn't want it developed and we bought it. So I guess the question to you is, what do you see as the proper manner for us to make the offer to be of assistance at their request rather than us insisting upon assistance? It's an offer.
Yeah, so I would say we should get maybe input from our new city manager, because I'll tell you the truth, I mean, I know very little about whatever it is they're proposing, and so I really appreciated what Commissioner Convery said, because she was just, I think, in my mind, laying out not anything inflammatory, but the general public and city government has not received a lot of detail from the school district about what they want to do. And there's a lot of chicken versus egg issues involved there, where how can we, as a city, provide input to them until we know what it's proposing. I mean, I have not received anything in my capacity as a city council member to tell me in some type of, formal way, or even, this is coming to you from staff. So I feel at a loss to give you a recommendation, other than I think everything that you've said tonight is perfectly appropriate, in that you're available to help them if they want assistance with historical preservation issues, and that I think the idea of ad hoc committees that, I think it goes beyond historic, because then there's use issues, and then the city, for those properties that are in the city, we have a great interest in how the properties are going to be used. And so there's potentially a city council member, maybe planning commission member, and I would expect maybe a couple residents of the city, if we're going to be talking about, that could potentially be involved in those discussions. And I do agree that the last time with the with the Chaparral property, that a lot of that lack of information and cohesion ahead of time is why it became that thing we see so often in Ojai, where you know, people run at the last minute to say, you can't do this. Well, so that's my thought.
Okay, great, thank you.
I don't know if that helps at all.
It does.
I have just a comment, Andy. It was a meeting, 2 meetings ago, and Atticus was here. He's the president of the school board. And, the discussion of Matilla came on our agenda. There was a lot of upheaval about that, what the heck are you doing kind of a thing. We just wanted to get the conversation going early to try to avoid what happened with Chaparral, and I think we did succeed with that, because now there seems to be a much healthier conversation. But all of us, I believe, expressed to Atticus that we would love to have a 2+2 group, and he said he thought that was a fantastic idea. So I believe our group and theirs is very open to having an ongoing conversation to avoid those pitfalls. And again, whether that includes a city council member or a planning commissioner, I'm not sure, but they were very, very open to that, to avoid those problems. And you were not at that meeting, so
Right.
just letting you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So again, I want to, if somebody wants to know what's going on to attend one of those meetings, they're open to the public. I was the public. I will tell you the things that Cheryl presented were some updates that they know. They know very little. They have no plans. They are taking information. They do know certain things are required. Matilla Middle School is required. This is, again, items that Cheryl shared with the group. She used as an example the Nordhoff sports teams and the Matilla sports teams. If the Nordhoff volleyball team and the Nordhoff basketball team are wanting to practice, or the basketball team has a game and the volleyball team wants to practice, they actually come over to the Matilla Middle School and they practice there. Same thing even for Matilla school sports. When they find they have a conflict, they'll go over to the high school and practice. So there's a lot of sharing that's going on between all of the different programs. As we've seen, there are artistic programs that put on by Nordhoff that are done, of course, in the only theater other than the Art Center there at the Matilla Middle School. There are just multitude of uses that superintendent, that Cheryl pointed out in that meeting, and reasons why they will continue to need portions of Matilla Middle School. Their quandary is that these are the different segments of the school, but then what's free and what they're trying to wrap their heads around and get ideas from people are the classrooms, because the classrooms are what is not necessarily needed at the moment. And so the Matilla Middle School is needed. She definitely said we have no plans to do anything on that because we need that adaptive school. We're just not sure what to do with the rest of the classrooms. They have other, obvious things, what to do with the buses, different ideas, and many of the same things that, I talked with Andy for several hours beforehand. But the other thing they said is before they do anything, I guess by school law, Craig, you may know this, they have to convene another 7-Eleven committee. 7-Eleven being, I didn't know this, that they can have anywhere from 7 to 11 committee members. And that's why it's called a 7-Eleven committee. I had no idea.
But
That's
another issue that gets to what Jane Weil commented on between the city and the school district is a lot of whether a portion of a school or a school can be regulated by the local agency, is whether or not the activities there are classroom-based activities. So that was the issue I think that came up with the school district offices, is it was being leased out for a private company to do non-classroom-based activities. So if they were holding gym practice and sport teams in the gymnasium and on the field, then those areas would be less able to be under the purview of the city. But if the district offices, where their offices or storage areas or even renting out for housing or whatever, then that does bring it under the city. So there's a lot of issues that have to be looked at there. And so it's a little premature until they decide what they're going to do with those buildings. Are they going to use them for classroom instruction? But the whole reason for closing them was to eliminate classroom instruction. So
There's a general also kind of feeling that I've noticed from the school district, and I think that's been kind of a problem with the community, is that they always refer to the buildings as ours, and meaning that belongs to the school district and not to the community. Like, you can't tell us what to do with our property. I've heard that many times, and I think, and I did have this conversation with Atticus about kind of changing that narrative where it's more of a community discussion, because it's all of ours. You know, we are us. We are the school board. We elect them. They represent us. It's all of us. So to the point of the comment about, and I don't know that it was accurate, about the school districts not being subjected to the city ordinances and building issues, which I don't, which I don't think is accurate.
Defer to the city attorney on that?
Yeah, but I think it's just the mentality of even having those thoughts. You know, you should, if I were that school board person, I would say, let's respect the city's ordinances and let's, work together and not even have that conversation about you can't tell us what to do kind of, option. I think it sets people apart.
Yeah.
So I would
I
prefer
haven't seen
to
that.
have that.
That was very much, there was a lot of finger pointing. We're a school, you can't do anything. Well, we're the city,
Yeah.
their own thing. So.
Don't even go there. Yeah.
So the update I just heard was that previously Chaparral was declared surplus. The last thing I heard, that the last thing that the former board did was they unsurplus the Chaparral
What does
Elementary School.
surplus mean?
When you surplus school property, then that, we'll let the city attorney, it isn't quite as restricted school-wise and protected from other entities.
Well, in order to sell it or lease it out, you have to go through this process of surplusing it. And one of the issues they ran into is that if they surplus the property, if they sold it, the money had to go for facilities only. But if they leased it, it could go for the general fund. So there's a lot of little legal implications.
So I guess I'll just add to what I said before.
Please.
That I would not assume that you're exempt from your normal duties with respect to historical preservation until the city attorney tells you that. I am planning to talk to him tomorrow, and this is one of the topics that I was planning to talk to him about, not because I received information from the school district, but because a constituent communicated with me and said, what the heck is happening? And so this is going to be my way of finding out what the heck is happening.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and as we talked in the joint meeting, we see that as our responsibility is to look at any properties within the city of Ojai and bring those to attention of the city council. And we're just trying to do that gently. Okay, so item number 8, future agenda. Let's see, what did I? Yeah,
Can we go
I
back
did my
to
note.
8 for a second?
Yes.
So are you going to ask staff to forward something to the council to pass along to the school district, or you just had it just, or not?
I don't know that we're ready to,
Can we have a request to form a 2+2 committee? That'll take a couple months.
Yeah, that would be a request to the council.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well start
that
now.
that
The school board.
between the,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it would be a request to the council to do that, but then, of course, the school board has to want to do
yeah.
it.
The council has to ask the school board. We can't ask them,
Okay.
correct?
yeah,
Is that
yeah, we
correct?
can do that. I mean, it's
So, yeah,
already
might as
been
well
mentioned.
start.
It was
We can always-
mentioned in our meeting here.
Yeah, and we talked about it with Atticus, and he seemed very open to that.
So,
I
yeah.
think might as well start the process.
that's a good-
You can always say
good start.
no.
Excellent. Okay.
Would you like to take a roll on that, please?
Sherry?
Jerry?
Akins,
Yes.
Convery,
Yes.
Bisacha,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you. Okay,
We're in very much harmony tonight.
I know. I'm so happy. Okay, future agenda items. Where are they? Oh, number 9. Trying to organize for a change. These are the ethics. Okay.
Right.
future.
Right now, on the future agenda items, we have the Historic Preservation Awards. The
Yes,
commissioners will be coming back to the next meeting with brief bios, and I'll be contacting you via email before then to give you a deadline for those. And then also always asking for downtown historic district updates. Those would be the two things on the next agenda.
yes. The one thing on the city attorney guided CEQA education, when we get to that, I just think it's that's kind of to get us in a understanding with the city, as well as having the city attorney in here. So we'd like Lucas present for that also, whenever we finally get to that. So just something
Thank
that
you.
came up. Okay, any other future agenda items? We got Ojai Day on there. Last year, it took us forever to do a report on Ojai Day. I think it was 6 months later.
Those are the only items that I have at this
Anything
time.
else, Rick? Craig?
Not that I can think of.
Not me.
Okay, okay, sweet. Planning report.
Planning report. This has been a long agenda. However,
It's only 7
it's
after
only
7.
7:07. I'm amazed and impressed. At the
There is
at
a little
the-
bit of preparation. to
at
get
the
that to.
at the efficiency and I don't know what else.
Business.
Yes. So I do not have anything else to report at this time. Oh, I do actually. I need to forward to everyone, blind copy, of course, some information that Commissioner McHatton forwarded to me regarding CEQA. He's just been very busy getting this agenda together and along with other planning work, and so I haven't gotten that out to you yet.
About what?
It's some CEQA education that came from, right.
Yeah,
And
she
so I
mentioned
guess the
it.
city attorney asked her to forward that to me so I could forward it on to you and him as well. And after that, then we'll get him on the, get it on the agenda to actually have this CEQA education. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner comments, any commissioner comments?
I would just like to point out that the Turtles are playing tonight, and that it was exactly 30 years ago on July 4th that they played the Nordhoff Stadium.
It's so
So-
exciting.
Wow.
They were oldies
Oh,
but
the
goodies then,
I
30
remember
years
when
ago.
that happened. I remember that 4th of
Yeah.
July.
Oh, I wish I
That's like
lived
my
in town
first
I'm like-
4th of
so I
July
could hear it.
Turtles are playing tonight? Is
Oh.
that like
But are
a
they
sports team?
original Turtles or they're new
Well,
turtles?
Are the original Turtles. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're still going tonight, but they were the kind of nucleus of the group.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go back and take back the mic. You asked if the PowerPoint was online for the other sites of merit discussion.
The updates?
Yes, the updates, and they are online. They're on the website.
They're in the, under comments.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was flipping through and I'm like, oh, look at that. Comments for the HPC. They even have a column for us. And then I clicked on it and went, oh yeah, that's Craig's. Okay, Councilman Whitman, thank you for being here. We appreciate when council is here.
I enjoyed it and learned a lot, and I've talked way more than I ever planned to tonight, so I'm just going to say thank each of you, because you're giving your time, allows us to function as a better city, and our, quality of life is dependent on people like you offering your time to do this. So thank you, and I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you, Councilman Whitman. Yes, thank you. Okay, sorry.